we have Benfica against Real Madrid. Run it back. The 2025-26 Champions League knockout stages are officially here, and the draw has just taken place this morning. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my reaction to the draw, my reaction to the matchups, and giving you guys a little preview on which teams I think are more likely to advance in the knockout stages and which teams sadly are more likely to be eliminated. Before I get into this video, I have to tell you guys that no, I did not react to this draw live, and that's because the draw was at 6 a.m. in my time. I live in Toronto, Canada, so the draw was very early for me, and this is my day off work, and I'm sick, and it's my day off. So I'm not going to be waking up at 6 a.m. to watch this draw. But if we look at this draw, it's very, very interesting. Now, a few things that I've noticed, in my opinion, the left side of the draw has much more difficult teams than the right side. Not to say that the right side is easy, because sometimes in the Champions League, we see one side having all the best teams and one side having all the easier teams. But realistically, in this draw, you would have to say that the left side definitely has the more difficult matchups compared to the right side. Let's start off with a little overview of all the different matchups, and then I'm going to give a preview into every individual matchups and give you guys my early predictions on which teams are more likely to advance to the further round. So let's start off by looking at the playoff round. So if we start on the left side, we have Borussia Dortmund against Atalanta. Very good game in my opinion. We have Benfica against Real Madrid. Run it back. Run it back once again. Benfica against Real Madrid is going to be a crazy match. Moving further down, we have Monaco against PSG, which will be a pretty interesting one, all French matchup. And then we have Galatasaray against Juventus. So that is the left-hand side. And now if we look at the right side, we have Olympiacos versus Bayer Leverkusen. Under them, we have Bodo Glimt against Inter Milan. And then the final two matchups we have is Qarabag against Newcastle and Club Brugge against Atletico Madrid. Now, if we look at the teams in the round of 16, obviously we have the top 8, which is Arsenal, Bayern Munich, Sporting, Man City, Barcelona, Chelsea, and Liverpool or Tottenham. So obviously, realistically, all of these teams are more of the better teams. They finished in the top 8. Now, I will say a team like Sporting or a team like Tottenham or even Liverpool haven't been the best this season. But realistically, in my opinion, looking at the teams that finished in the top 8, I would have to say that Arsenal or Bayern Munich are definitely two of the favorites. In my opinion, I would just edge it to Bayern Munich due to their Champions League experience. But realistically, Arsenal have been the best team in the world this season. But with that being said, let's look at the playoff matches. So first off, we have Borussia Dortmund against Atalanta. Now, if we look at this game, I think this is going to be a very interesting matchup because these teams don't really play against each other. If you look at the last time they played against each other was in 2018, 2017. But both of these teams are very similar in the sense that they both play with a 3 at the back formation. And also both of these teams have had struggles offensively this season. Obviously, Atalanta, when they were being managed by Ivan Juric, they were horrible. They were absolutely trash. But under Palladino, yes, they've been better, but still they have their struggles in the attack. But that's the same with Borussia Dortmund, where if you look at a player like Guirassy or some of the other attackers, they haven't really been able to score that many goals this season. And a lot of their goals have actually come from the midfield and their defense, where most of their defenders have scored multiple goals this season. So this will be a very interesting game, and it may be a fairly low scoring game as well. But in my opinion, I will say that at the current moment, this may be a bit of bias, but I would probably say that Atalanta would advance. But realistically, going to the Signal Iduna Park is going to be a very, very tough game. So I don't really know for this one. But moving on, we have Benfica against Real Madrid. And this game is going to be absolutely insane because if you remember the last game, Benfica beat Real Madrid 4-2. This was the craziest match of the Champions League phase. They needed to win this game, and they needed to win by 2 goals to advance, finishing in 24th place. And what did they do? Their goalkeeper scored in the 98th minute. This game was probably the craziest game of the league phase. But with that being said, this goes to show you, in my opinion, that a player like Asensio on Real Madrid is not good enough for their team. And I've been saying it so many times that Asensio is not good enough to play for Real Madrid. His defending abilities aren't good enough, and he gets red cards all the time. So that is definitely a weak point for Real Madrid. And in general, in this game, their defense wasn't that good. But shout out to Benfica, because they could have won this game 5 or 6-0, if I'm being 100% honest. But this is going to be a very interesting matchup, even though Benfica beat Real Madrid in the last matchup. I still see Real Madrid going through, but you never know with Benfica. Moving on down, we have Monaco against PSG. And let me tell you why this is an interesting matchup. If you look at their head-to-head, Monaco have already faced PSG in the Liga this season, and Monaco won. Now, Monaco are a team who have been conceding a lot of goals this season. If you look at them in the Liga, they've been horrible. At the current moment, Monaco sit in 10th place in the Liga. They've conceded 33 goals. So defensively, they're horrible. We saw them concede 6 goals against Real Madrid. But at the same time, having already beaten PSG this season does give them a little bit of the upper hand. So with that being said, I could see Monaco possibly pulling off the upset, but realistically, you'd have to go with PSG to win. I would go with PSG to advance 100%. And moving on to the last game on the left side of the bracket, we have Galatasaray against Juventus. Now, this is an interesting game for the main reason that both of these teams are pretty good defensively. Especially Juventus, they're a team that don't concede many goals at all. If you look at Juventus in their last 6 matches played, they've kept 5 clean sheets. I feel like over the last month or so, we've really seen Juventus take a step up where many of their players, especially players like McKennie, have been performing really, really good. And he's been probably their best player in the Champions League. But obviously, they have players like Yildiz. They have many other attackers that can really hurt you. And even Jonathan David, who had a very, very slow start at Juventus. But recently, he's been very good. So this is going to be a tough matchup. Obviously, playing in Turkey is obviously going to be very, very tough. But if Juventus can not suffer a bad defeat in Turkey, I do think Juventus can advance. But if Galatasaray win by multiple goals at home, then I think it's over for Juventus. But let's get right into the right side of the bracket. So the first game we got is Olympiacos against Bayer Leverkusen. And funny enough, these teams actually already played each other in the league phase, and Olympiacos won 2-0, which I thought was a little bit surprising because in this game, I predicted that Bayer Leverkusen were going to get the win. But Olympiacos are a team where, yes, they had a slow start in the Champions League campaign, but when they're playing at home, they're a very, very strong team. When the fans are backing them, when they're playing in Greece, they're a very strong team. So, yes, I would say that Leverkusen are probably the better team, and Leverkusen over recent months have looked better than they did earlier on in the season. But at the same time, Olympiacos at home, they're going to be very tough to beat. So with that being said, I would probably still put Bayer Leverkusen to advance into the round of 16. But hey, you never know with Olympiacos. But moving on to the next game, we have Bodo Glimt against Inter Milan. And let me tell you something. This game is going to be insane. This matchup is going to be insane. Because Bodo Glimt at home, we have seen how good they've been this season. We saw when Juventus went to Bodo, how tough it was for them. We saw when Man City went to Bodo and lost 3-1. Bodo Glimt playing at home on that fake turf. Bro, they're probably one of the toughest teams to beat in this Champions League. And Inter Milan, yes, they're a good team. Yes, they've been very good under Christian Kivu. In my opinion, better than expected. And Inter are a team where, against the best teams in the Serie A, in the Champions League, they don't perform well, right? We saw them lose against Arsenal. In the Serie A, we've seen them lose to the likes of Juventus, to Napoli. So when they're playing against the biggest teams, they don't perform well. But against a team like Bodo Glimt, I think Inter Milan will be very good in this matchup. But like I said, this is going to be very tough because Bodo Glimt at home, you never know what they can do. So with that being said, I would probably put Inter Milan to advance to the round of 16. But against Bodo Glimt, bro, I can't write them off. I just can't do it. Moving on to the second last matchup, we have Qarabag against Newcastle. And once again, this is not as obvious as some people may think. Most people would probably say Newcastle are going to win 100%. I don't think so. Yes, we just saw Qarabag concede 6 goals against Liverpool. But at the same time, when Qarabag were playing at home, we saw them get some very, very good results. We saw them draw against Chelsea. We saw them beat, who did they beat at home? I forgot who else they beat. They beat Frankfurt at home. They drew against Chelsea. So Qarabag can cause an upset. And when they're playing in Azerbaijan, they're a very, very strong team. First of all, it's a very unfamiliar territory to a lot of these teams. Azerbaijan is very far east, and it's a fairly long travel for most of these teams. And with the home advantage, if Qarabag can beat Newcastle by multiple goals at home, by 2 goals at home, I don't see Newcastle coming back. In my opinion, I just don't see it happening. Obviously, St. James's Park is probably one of the toughest stadiums to go to, especially out of all the Premier League teams. But if Qarabag can win by multiple goals at home, I think they're going to go through. Now, with that being said, do I think they will go through? Unlikely. I still would probably say that Newcastle have a higher chance, but similar to Bodo Glimt, I can never write off Qarabag. And for the whole league phase, I was saying almost every single match day, Qarabag can beat you. They can hurt you. When they're playing at home, they can cause damage. And we saw that many times. And finally, the last matchup we have, Club Brugge against Atletico Madrid. This, in my opinion, is a tough one to call because Club Brugge coming into this tournament, I didn't think they were going to be anything really special, but we've seen how many goals they can score. They can score a lot of goals. You look at them in the last match day against Marseille, they scored 3 goals. They scored 4 goals against Kairat Almaty. We saw them obviously lose against Arsenal, but even in that game against Barcelona, I think they scored 3 goals as well. So they can score many goals. They can really hurt you, and they got the pace. Their wingers are fast. Carlos Forbes, this guy is like fast. He is speedy. So with that being said, they could cause an upset against Atletico Madrid. But realistically, even though Atletico Madrid haven't been the best in the league phase, we just saw them lose against Bodo Glimt, playing in the Metropolitano, which I thought was a little bit surprising. But I still think Atletico Madrid would probably beat Club Brugge. But like I said, the left side of this draw is definitely the more difficult of the 2 sides. The right side of the draw has the more predictable games, but at the same time, with teams like Bodo Glimt, Qarabag, and Club Brugge, you never know, and they could definitely cause an upset. But that's my little preview into the playoff round in the knockout stages. Obviously, we see which teams are going to be coming up against each other. We see who they're more likely to verse in the round of 16. Now, I'm not going to go over those matchups because, for example, Borussia Dortmund against Atalanta, the winner of that could face either Arsenal or Bayern Munich. It's not 100% certain. So when those games are over, when you know who's going to be facing who, I will obviously make another video. But at the current moment, those were my early preview and predictions for the playoff round in the Champions League knockout stages. If you guys agree with what I was saying in this video, remember to leave a comment down below. I'll be sure to reply to every single comment. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and you're excited for the knockout stages, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And stay tuned for more videos.